work. Now, where do we exercise that headship? How does this dominion, how does this work play out? Well, let's look at it in two places. The man cultivates first and foremost in his home. And if you're single, specifically a single man, I've got a whole section at the end of today's message where we'll just talk to you as single men. But for now, let's talk about how headship plays itself out and how God designed it to play itself out. One, it plays itself out at home. We cultivate at home. Here's Ephesians 5, starting in verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of the water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Think of the implications of that. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So, headship, the authority, the dominion of the man is exercised in the home via three ways. Sacrificial love towards his wife, all right? Love your wife like Christ loves the church. How is that? In that he gave his life for her. And so one of the ways a man exercises his headship, his unique leadership responsibility, is via the sacrificial love that he walks with concerning his wife. He does not dominate or demean her. He is for her in a type of way that's willing to sacrifice, willing to lay down his own life, willing to not sleep as much, willing to not rest in his own comfort, willing to get up and help. Sacrificial love. The second thing we see here is that the man is not only has a charge for sacrificial love, but he also has a charge for spiritual direction. The man will set the spiritual climate of the home. Children tend to follow daddy. And where daddy has created a climate that doesn't have at its center point video games and television and lounging around on the couch, but has conversations around the dinner table about the goodness of God that day, where daddy's willing to pray, where daddy's willing to seek forgiveness, where daddy sets the spiritual climate in the home in such a way that the air that we're breathing is one of the goodness and grace of God and understanding of who he is and the work of salvation made available to us in Jesus Christ. That responsibility falls on the man. Now, asterisk real quick for our single mothers and for our widowers. Lord willing, I would love to do a sermon, and maybe we just will at some point. I would love to do a sermon on how God hears and responds to the prayers of mamas. Throughout the Bible, it seems like God's got a special ear for mamas crying out for their babies. And where the ideal is lacking, grace abounds. Almost every godly man that I now run with, the men who are loving their wives, serving their children, having their lives wrung out for the good of their wives and their children, all come from homes where daddies did not teach them those things. They were by the grace of God saved, by the grace of God trained, and by the grace of God, they stumble forward. But men, the responsibility of the spiritual climate of your home does not fall on me, does not fall on our youth pastors, does not fall on our children's ministers. It falls on you. We are a resource to serve and help you, but we will not be judged by God for the spiritual climate of your home. You will. Sacrificial love, spiritual direction, and provision. That's the third thing we see in Ephesians 5. Now, when I say provision, I don't mean, a couple of things I don't mean. I don't mean that your wife gets whatever she wants. All right, now, the brain, and I know some of you are like, huh? It doesn't? And then some of you brothers are like, thank you. No, what I'm saying is that if the head is the brain that receives the signals, then we need to receive the signals. We need to, like, with my wife, I just lay my yes down, but sometimes I have to say not yet. So with Lauren, my yes is down. You ask for it, we'll get it done. If it doesn't violate what we said in the beginning we wanted to be about, and sometimes you're gonna have to wait 10, 15 years for us to get there. I'll have to reverse engineer that mug because you got caviar taste and your husband happens to be in ministry. That's not a part of culture that makes, 7 figures. So you're gonna have to chill on that. And so what I've just historically done when Lauren's come and said, hey, can we do this, is I'll go, yeah, in about 7 years. So if you give me 7 years, we'll get that, right? And that's provision is just shelter, care, the strengthening of their desires and gifts in the Lord. That's what provision is. And this, well, does the man have to be the primary breadwinner? I think that's such a secondary question to what's going on here. Listen, if your wife is a millionaire and excels in the business world, you're not free as a man to master hobbies. Why not? Because that's boy stuff and you're a man and men work. And so if you hit jackpot, all right, mama just from a long line of cash. To not work hard is to damage your own soul and to refuse to mirror to your sons and daughters what it actually means to be a man. So congratulations on the cash mama brought into the marriage. That has not freed you up to become an expert in wakeboarding, right? To become the best hunter this side of, right? You just haven't been freed up for that. Work hard, play hard. All right, mama's cash has not freed you up to be lazy. You just damage your own soul when you walk in that. You belittle the image that God has put in you. You haven't been designed for too much play. You haven't been designed for too much play. Now, let me say this. You got sacrificial love, spiritual direction, physical care. Now, men, a lack of competence does not negate your responsibility. And let me demythologize some things. I think there are times where I'm talking about trying to love my wife or try to serve my kids, and they're like, oh, Pastor Matt, of course you do, Pastor Matt. So let's just, some real talk between us today, all right? There are many a days that I am not up for what God has called me to do. I come home tired and grumpy. I can snap. There are times I just don't feel like doing this again. I don't want to have family devotion. I want to go to bed. I want to crawl in bed and pray and dig around in their hearts to make sure they're okay. What about me? Can I sit on the couch and watch a game? There are times I don't know what to do. Like, I've got all sorts of hormone things happening in my house right now as my daughters get older, and man, I can argue with the best of them if the conversation is reason. But I've had a couple of things now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I need to back out, but I don't need to back out and look like I'm afraid, or I will embolden whatever this is, and I will lose control of my home. Maintain eye contact, maintain eye contact. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Cry, whatever this is, and then meet me at the dinner table and we'll talk. You know, right? I don't know what to do. And Lauren and I sit down and we're talking about how to handle this and how to navigate this. And there are times we don't know what to do. So we're just trying stuff. And I don't know who's listening when we're doing family devotions. Sometimes I think it's just Lauren and I. But whether or not revival breaks out in family devotion or not, the expectation of God on me is that I enter the fray. And I fail all the time, but here's what's awesome. Men, let me encourage you with that. Here's what's awesome. My failures and owning my failures, because the gospel has freed me up to do that, mirrors what it means to be a man for my wife and my children more so than my successes do. Like when my children get to watch me walk up to mama after I snapped and say, that was me, baby. I'm tired. You don't deserve that. That was totally me. Will you forgive me? Thank you, sweetheart. When my son gets to see that, when my daughters get to see that, when I sin against my children, which is often, and I go climb in their bed and snuggle them tight and go, that wasn't you, that was me. Dad's just got all this going on, and what he did was, man, I have to lean into Jesus, I have to let Jesus forgive me. He's gonna do that. Will you forgive me? Like, that's such a model of the gospel and of grace that even my failures reinforce what I've been called to do if I'll own them and seek forgiveness. Now, let's chat. Back to my initial statement. Can you not see that where a man does these things, a home flourishes, a wife flourishes, children flourish, humanity flourishes? Where a man is willing to enter the space of sacrificial love. It's not all about me and what I want and what you're gonna do for me, but rather, I'm gonna wring out my life for your good and the glory of God. That a wife is gonna flourish, grow in her gifts, grow in confidence, grow in an understanding of her beauty, feel safe. Where spiritual direction is set, cultivated, honored, where the word of God and prayer and the reality of God is the climate of the home. The children feel safe and valued and loved, not exalted to the point of idolatry, but loved and safe, where dad works hard to provide, and if mama's got cash, he just works hard to mirror the image for his sons and daughters. That a family's gonna flourish. And where a man punts on any of these responsibilities or holds on to one to the neglect the others, because in this context, here's what we do. I provide. They've got a pool and a couple jet skis and a boat. I take them on vacation. So forget sacrificial love and forget, and even that kind of, I work so hard, that's my sacrificial love. No, that's your selfish climbing a 2-foot ladder. That's what that is. That's all about you. That ain't about your family. So let's not pretend as men talking. We don't neglect spiritual direction and sacrificial love because we provide. You see how the family unit flourishes if men are men, and where you take a man out of that and a woman is not served with sacrificial love, there is no spiritual climate set by the Father, and there is no provision that things start to break down.